Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to a top 10. Today, we're doing an interesting top 10. I was trying to figure out what top 10 I haven't done in a while because as many of you know, used to do top 10s on my channel like very early on when I started doing like reviews, and I was trying to get like I think a change from reviews rather than always doing reviews at the time. So I did a lot of top 10s. I did like romance, I did most boring anime, stuff like that. But interestingly enough, I was thinking, what could I do since I'm restarting this kind of top 10, Tuesday type thing? What could I do for this? And I realized, you know what? Maybe let's do a top 10 on anime that don't get a lot of love and are pretty much unknown to a lot of people. Like, I'm not saying every single one of these shows are unknown completely. Like, you probably have heard of it somewhere before, or maybe you've heard about it enough. But more so than not, there are anime that a lot of people I notice don't talk about at all. Like, even if you go to forums and stuff like that, maybe they're too old to be mentioned, or maybe they're just not kind of lost into the stream of other anime that are similar to it. But honestly, I wanted to do a top 10 on this because I love all these shows that I have on these. Now, as always, guys and girls, this is my opinion. These top 10s are my opinions. If you have any issues with it, hey, put it in the comments below. Tell me if you feel like I missed something here. If you want me to add something, that's fine. Also, leave any suggestions for other top 10s I could do. I'll be happy to try to do them when I can. And also, another big thing is I don't have these in order. Top 10s for me are not order based. It's not like, oh, okay, number 10, 9, 8, 7. I might have that in the sequence of numbers, yeah. So I say, okay, number 10, number 9, etc. But they're not per se ranked by that order. So just because something number 2, it doesn't mean it's better than number 9 or number 8 for that matter. Anyways, let's get on to this. So, as always with these, honorable mention, so this is like number 11 technically, but Ed. Now, Ed is a series that I notice people don't talk about more than anything else. It's like, I guess because this came out in the early 2000s, it's kind of been lost in the society of anime and stuff like that. But Ed was a great series about a kind of destruction of the world and people that still live through it gain superpowers in many ways. They got weird kind of abilities to alter the things around them and alter matter in many ways. And it follows Kazuma, who's essentially an anti-hero in many ways. But what's really cool about the series is besides the cool action, besides just the kind of animation that was really, really well done for back then, it has this really nice flow to it that it's a great drama show. It has a lot of action, like I said before, but you feel like it's a good mixture of the both, if that makes sense. It's never feeling like you're going to be like losing on one element or another, because a lot of shows that are like this from the 2000s, they feel like they focus on one particular genre. Like if they're action, they're going to focus on action more than else. If they're drama, they're going to focus on that. Ed had a little bit of everything. It had a little bit of drama, it had a little bit of action, a little bit of kind of sci-fi in many ways if you think about it. I really think this is an awesome show. Definitely go check it out if you've never seen it before. Ed. Now, number 10 starting the list is Magical Shopping Arcade Abenobashi. Now, this came out also in the early 2000s. It was very interesting in the sense that we had two young characters being forced into a essentially weird dilemma. They were normally in which is essentially an arcade, a shopping arcade. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's a place where it's almost like a market in many ways. It's not really like literal arcade like video games and stuff like that. It's where you can buy goods and stuff like that and go to restaurants, stuff like, in that sense, if that makes sense. If that makes sense in that sense. Oh, God, why do I do these top 10 sometimes so early in the morning? Anyways, though. So what happens, though, is that during their summer break, they end up getting lost in a weird portal that opens up in their arcade, and as they go through the portal, they end up in this kind of streamlined weird world that's almost a duplicate of their own, but in a very odd sense. And the thing is that they're always now trying to find a way back to their original world. And in the course of the show, they end up in all these kind of alternate realities of their worlds. Like, so, what if their area was a sci-fi place? What if it was like a mecha anime type thing? It's really cool. It makes a lot of jokes about other genres of the anime world. I love Abenobashi. I really think it is one of those shows that it does not get a lot of love. I mean, again, it's a really older show. I think it came out in 2002, around that. But it's one of those shows that I feel if you actually gave it a chance, you would really fall in love with the show because it's just so quirky and cool. I love the animations for it. And by the way, I know I say cool a lot during my top 10s. I'm okay with that. Again, do these things really early in the morning. It's a little hard to come up with, I want to say exact great phrases and mannerisms. Like, that is the best I could think of in the morning. Maybe I should do these later, but honestly, for me, doing top 10s, I feel more refreshed doing them in the morning, if that makes sense. Anyways, let's move on, though, number 9. Number 9 would be Kokoro Connect. Now, Kokoro Connect is a very interesting story that has a young bunch of teenagers that are in a club together, and they end up having an issue happen to them where a strange being called Heartseed goes up to them and goes, "You know what? I'm gonna make it where you guys switch bodies for the next foreseeable future," and that's just one incident that's going to happen to them. They're going to have several other things happen to them because this Heartseed guy wants to see their reaction as a class, like as a group, I should say. And over the course of the 13 episodes, which is the original series, and then there's like an OVA series which you need to watch because it's actually the conclusion for the series. You're going to see these characters have to go through various weird kind of issues, and just as friendships build and as romances build, it's very interesting. I really dig this show. I mean, honestly, this was recommended to me to a friend by a friend a long time ago. I bought it like all in one shot, and honestly, was not ever regretting that decision. I mean, it was such a great anime. It was one of those shows that's a 10 out of 10. Honestly, you should go check it out. It's not loved enough. Like I hear people mention it once in a while in passing things. This didn't come out that long ago. I think it was like 2013. It's awesome. And by the way, I apologize if I keep sniffling. I think I'm not. I don't want to say I'm sick. I've just got like a little bit of stuffy nose. But anyways, let's move on. So number 8, I believe, Sea Control. Now, Sea Control is something that I remember someone wanted me to review way back when. And I said, "Oh, I reviewed that already," because I did review it way back when. It was like maybe my, I want to say around 60s anime, like in terms of like original, because I used to review, if you knew my channel, I used to review in number order, so I'd be like number 1, 2, 3. I think it was like number 60 or something around that. I'm probably horribly wrong, but it was a while ago. But Sea Control is a very interesting, like 13 episode long series that it was so odd. Honestly, it was one of those series that you're like, what the fuck? It was essentially our main character gets sent into a game where he gets a lot of money, and you're allowed to use that money however the hell you want. You could use that money to go buy yourself a house, a mansion, buy yourself a small company, whatever. You get a lot of money. The thing is, though, is that you must participate in these games, quote unquote, that you have to fight other people that have money also. And the thing about these games is that you bet money values against their money values. The winner getting the whole money, like the whole grand sum of that, the loser losing their money. If you run out of money completely, everything you've gotten up to that point is removed, and worth possessions are also removed. So in many cases, without spoiling it, but I'll just say one of the characters, I'm not going to say who it is, one of the characters has a family of 4, and the thing is that he was in the game so he can afford to, take care of the family of 4. After the game was over and he lost his place in the game, he ended up losing not only his kids, but he almost lost his wife. His wife was the only one that's left, and they never had a kid in like that version of his altered reality. So it has a very interesting concept of what are you willing to risk in terms of money. Like, what would you do if you had that much money and someone told you to do these weird things with it? It's a series that I feel had a great, kind of quick pace to it. It had some issues with it. It really wasn't like a 10 out of 10 show. It was maybe like a 9 out of 10. But it had some pacing issues. It had some issues with story elements here and there. I wish some stuff was fleshed out more. But honestly, it was one of those shows that you could watch and be like, wow, this feels like a breath of fresh air because it was so different and so radically interesting in many ways. I mean, it has some kind of, I want to say some cliches to it here and there, but overall, very, very different. I loved it about that. So definitely go check out Sea Control. And I want to say this is number 7, so I'm actually going to do 10, 9, 8. So, yes, number 7. I want to make sure, because I had a fiasco with my other top 10, and many of you know where I got the order wrong. Number 7, Samurai Flamenco. Now, I am a huge I was a huge fan of Power Rangers and stuff like that, Kamen Rider. I used to love them as a kid. As a teenager, it kind of grew out a little bit, but, One Punch Man was something that came out when I got older, and I really appreciated it because it was kind of like a breath of fresh air for the fact that I haven't seen anything that really talked and harkened back to the days that I used to love as a kid and a young teen. Samurai Flamenco in many ways is awesome because we have this main character who is a pop idol type character who he wants to be a superhero, and he dresses up himself in cosplay to be a superhero, tries to help people out. And when a series of events kind of lead him to another character who's a police officer, they end up dealing with some weird shit that happens where maybe, I'm not going to spoil it, but maybe stuff actually is existing around him, like space aliens and evil warriors and stuff like that. He ends up becoming an actual legitimate hero, And you see that in the interesting sense of how the show plays out with this kind of him being a superhero, him being almost like a Power Ranger in many ways. And he gets a team later on. He has to deal with like space aliens literally at one point. It's just very interesting, but it has a very dark tone to it because it's almost like, in a sense, they wanted to make you think back to your childhood, but at the same time make you realize maybe that wasn't real, if some people still think that was. And I really like how they do some of the stuff later on in the series with the kind of dramatic stuff that does happen and appear. Samurai Flamenco needs a lot of love. Honestly, it's one of those shows that I wish got more love, but unfortunately did not. Alright, so number 6 would be the Tower of Druaga. Now, the Tower of Druaga is actually based off a old, I want to say SNES game that then made its way to PS2 many years later, but they made an anime about it. And what was funny is the anime and video game have really nothing to do with one another. So even if you've never played the game or you have no idea that there was a game, which I'm pretty sure 90% of you do not know that this was a game originally, you don't need to go into that knowing that. Now, what's funny is it follows the main character, who's this young man who has to go and essentially, to get stronger and to be proven to the world around him, they must climb a tower. Now, this tower exists in the center of this giant village. And what's funny about this tower is that no one's really ever been that far into it. So people have been inside of it and have gotten like maybe 5 floors up or maybe 10 floors. But for the most part, it's never been fully climbed. And the thing was that he wants to strive to be the first person to ever climb this thing and go all the way to the top. And as we learn over the course of the series, that's going to come with both comedy aspects and some very serious ill tones to it. What's awesome with Tower of Druaga is it has a very good pacing where it starts off very comedic with a little bit of seriousness here and there. It's not really taken too serious in the beginning. But then as the course of the show ramps up and the dangers of the tower start revealing themselves, and more so who is to be trusted and who is not to be trusted, once those start reeling their way into the show itself and kind of weaving their tale, it's funny because the show takes this whole darker tone to it that is, I know for some people it might be a turnoff, because I know a lot of people don't like when a comedy show becomes too serious and vice versa, but in the sense of this show, it works out really well. And the second parts of this, the second arc, is more serious than the first arc, but there's plenty of comedy to be enjoyed during the downtime, and it's nice and peppered in there so you don't feel like it's kind of destroying the build-up that you are expecting from it. Tower of Druaga is, to me, I think, one of those shows that no one talks about for the most part. I've seen a few forum posts here and there about it, but honestly, this is one of those shows that I would wish to get like a little bit more love and praise, because it really is not bad. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. I'd say this was a solid maybe like B, around that, B plus, but it is awesome. It's definitely one of those shows that you could find cheap. I don't think it's very expensive DVD wise. You could probably buy it maybe $29 on Amazon, probably a little more than that nowadays, but it shouldn't be that much. It was I think it was published by Funimation, so you're gonna get some good quality there and some good extras and stuff like that. But overall, definitely check out Tower of Druaga. You won't be disappointed if you want some action, kind of fantasy elements that have a good sense of, I want to say, storytelling, drama, comedy, romance toward the end. Very good show. Now, I believe this is number 5. Yeah, number 5 would be Magical Detective Loki Ragnarok. Now, this show, don't feel bad if you have never heard of that. I mean, this is one of those shows that came out in 2003 to very little fanfare. I mean, it was one of those shows that I wish it had more fanfare, if that makes sense, but it's also understandable. Like, when I watched it when I was younger, I watched it, that was more so during the time where you just would watch random stuff on various anime on-demand services and stuff like that. And this came out on, I think it was my what was it, cable provider's anime on demand. So I mean, I think I paid like $5 a month for that or something. Or, well, more so, my parents paid $5 a month to get this service. It was one of those shows that every episode every week came out, and I mean, honestly, I loved this show. It was so cool, and I rewatched it not that long ago, at least parts of it. I didn't rewatch the whole thing, but I watched a decent amount of it. What this does is this follows many mythical beings. So we have Loki, we have stuff like that, we have Fenrir and Hel and stuff like that. It follows him being a young child who runs a, I want to say, private eye detective agency, which is why it's called the Mythical Detective Loki. A young girl walks in, kind of ends up joining the group, and over the course of, like, I want to say 20 something episodes, I forget exactly how many episodes. I believe it's 26. I just looked it up real fast. 26 episodes. It has, where it starts off very episodic. It's not, this per se, not too much about continuality for the story. You get like these episodic breaks and stuff like that. More so when you get to the halfway point of the series, it starts going off into a real like focal point where the story, you need to watch every episode to get the little bits of the story then. But what's interesting about the show in general is that it was very cool. I mean, it was very full of nice animations. I mean, I like the concept because I'm a huge fan of the I want to say the Norse mythology. I really am a big fan of this stuff, and I've read a lot about it. So it takes a lot of those characters and kind of makes them in caricatures in many ways, but it does it in a very sweet sense where you get the story lore behind their characters and how they are in reality, or well, more so in mythical reality. I'll put it that way. You get their basis of that. So like Loki, for example, the main character is a young kid, which if you know the story of Loki in the Norse mythology, you have it where Loki is a trickster in many ways. He's a young kid, he's a teenager to adult in the actual mythology segments of the story, but he's always been a trickster, almost like very childish in many ways. That's why it's kind of interesting to see his character being represented as a literal child. But Loki is not an idiot. Loki's very smart. Because he's a trickster, he knows how to play people and knows how to do certain things with their minds. And so what I liked about this was that we see Loki being the main kind of one that solves these mysteries and all these little short detective stories and stuff like that. And, just overall, just one of those shows that I never see anyone talk about. And it's like, why? This show definitely deserves some praise. If you love Case Closed and stuff like that, or you're looking for something that's a little shorter, more digestible, you can't go wrong with Mental Detective Loki Ragnarok. Definitely go check it out. Alright, number 4, I believe. Welcome to the NHK. One of my friend's favorites. I know Professor Anime loves the series. Understand them completely. It's one of those shows that I would love if it got a little more fanfare. I know a lot of people do know about this, but not enough people know about this. I mean, this is one of those shows that you talk to someone and they know what they go, I think I've heard of it, or maybe I watched an episode and I kind of dropped it because I thought it was weird. Come on, Welcome to the HK is one of those shows that you must watch if you really want to consider, I want to say, venturing into something that's out of your comfort zone. We have our main character Sato, who he is a hikikomori. Hikikomori. I can't say the actual way of it, and it sounds like I'm stuttering when I say it, so I'm not going to say it again. But he's essentially a recluse. And over the course of the show, he has to deal with various things that recluses have to deal with, such as, getting addicted to video games and anime, getting addicted to kind of lying to people about what they're doing in their life. It's very interesting to see that, and I think it's very rare that we ever see that in an anime sense, because in many ways I think it's almost taboo to go into the realm of someone that is addicted to something in anime. If you notice, a lot of times, they make fun of people that are addicted to, like, maybe cosplayers or addicted to, otaku lifestyles and stuff like that. But they rarely ever make fun of them in the sense that they nitpick everything that's wrong with their mentality. They make fun of them in passing, and they make fun of them in the very cliche elements. But, Sato's adventure in the Welcome to the HK is really messed up. I mean, he deals with various things like suicide, he deals with depression, he deals with, how to really just kind of break out of his shell and go back into the world that he's kind of left behind. Now, I will say that this is one of those shows that, yeah, be strong-willed going into it. I don't think you should watch this if you're a weak-minded person. I think you need to have an open mind and be willing to accept that this is reality. There's a lot of people that are like this, that deal with various stresses and disabilities that kind of make it where life's hard for them. Not because per se that everything's going against them, but because they also are kind of making their life difficult by their actions. Like, for example, Sato being a recluse. That means that he doesn't go outside very much. He has to always kind of live in his own little bubble 24/7. That is definitely something that is a risk in many ways. And it's kind of cool to see that in an anime world, that you see this character dealing with all this. Definitely, this is a 10 out of 10 show. Definitely go check out Welcome to the HK. Number 3, something I just finished recently, F, A Tale of Memories and Melodies. So if you play, well, more so in the visual novel, it's called F, A Tale of Two, because it was meant to be broken into 2 parts. Now, F, A Tale of Memories and Melodies is a season 1 and season 2 in many ways. Melodies is the second season, Memories is the first. We follow separate characters dealing with various romantic issues and kind of dramas in their life. And what's very interesting is it has this very almost weird pseudo oddity going on about it all the time, where you have supernatural elements going on, you have weird romantic plots and weird melodramatic moments and stuff like that. I'm going to say right now that Memories is stronger than Melodies in many ways, but you need to watch both of them. They are very needed they need to be watched both. Even though they are separate stories, so the first the first season focuses on two characters, the next season focuses on another two sets of characters. You need to watch both because those characters are represented in both stories. They make throwbacks to all the characters. They all become this giant weaved story in many ways. And I loved the romance elements of the show. I loved it. I loved just the kind of way that the other characters were woven into the second season and how they became secondary characters in many ways, but also still furthered the plot. And as you find out, there was always meaning. This is one of the shows that this foreshadows a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the next part. And if you really find it and nitpick it, you could find those little foreshadow moments and really enjoy something that kind of unravels in front of you, and then you're like, oh, that makes sense then. Oh shit, I like completely didn't understand one concept of the show until the very last arc, and I'm like, what? That was a thing the whole time? I was surprised and just taken aback by it. Honestly, such a good romance show. Tale of Memories, F A Tale of Memories gets a 10 out of 10. F A Tale of Melodies gets a 9 out of 10. It's like I said, it has some issues here and there, some melodramas. It's kind of thrown in too much, but overall, great show. Definitely go check it out if you're a romance buff and you just kind of want something different. Also, I think if you're a fan of Clannad, stuff like that, you'll definitely want to check that out because it reminds me of Wolf's Clan in many ways. I'm not trying to compare the two, mind you. I'm just saying it does remind me a lot of ways of Clannad. All right, number 2 is going to be Heaven's Memo Pad. Now, Heaven's Memo Pad is very interesting, and I don't have very much to say about this because it's one of those shows that I love it, but I would understand why people might have issues with it. It's very simple. It's not a long series. I believe it's only like 12 or 13 episodes. I think it's 12 episodes if I really remember correctly. But it is one of those shows that it seems like it was almost unneeded in many ways. I hate to say it that way, but there is like a no end point to the show. And I know the manga finished, or excuse me, the light novel finished not that long ago. It finished in 2014, I believe. We never got the light novels in America for it, so it's just kind of unfortunate because I think this would have been a very interesting light novel series to read. And hopefully they change that one day. Hopefully we do get them out in the States. I just highly doubt it. But we have our main character who is Narumi, who ends up kind of going into a house one day and meeting this girl named Alice, who Alice is detective of NEETs, apparently. Her job is to go around taking orders and requests from people that post on various forums and websites and go to her directly. And so what they have to do is all these characters that are under her lineage and kind of under her order go out and try to just help people. And it's very episodic in many ways. There is a main story woven in as we get to the series long ago, or excuse me, as the series continues. I don't know if I said long ago. Like I said, very early in the morning. Note to self, maybe not do these so early in the morning. But what I love about Heaven's Memo Pad is I love the kind of stories that are told. They're very realistic in many senses. You have characters that deal with just friendships being broken, romance issues, stuff like that. So if you really are a huge fan of mystery stuff and you love just kind of shows that really have per se no point to them, like this is one of the shows you can kind of turn your brain off and just enjoy the randomness of every character, enjoy the kind of quirkiness of our main several characters that are in the course of the show. You'll definitely can't go wrong with Heaven's Memo Pad. I kind of just wish more people would watch it just to show that, hey, anime doesn't always have to be something that makes 100% sense. It could be something very simple and, maybe just kind of an oddity in many ways, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's still awesome. Like this show, honestly, 9 out of 10. It was so great. It was one of those shows that I enjoy. I've watched it many times. I think I watched it maybe 3 or 4 times. It's awesome. Go check it out. Alright, so last but not least, and like I said before, it has nothing to do with the order, like, oh, this is going to be the best one out of them, I'm just saying. This is Valvarave. Now, Valvarave is very interesting in the sense that it's one of those mecha shows that I think falls into obscurity in many ways, where people were talking about it when it first came out, and then just kind of disappeared. Even though it came out like 2012 or something, or maybe a little bit before that, it was very popular when it came out. Like, people were talking about it. It was something very different for the mecha genre, and then just disappeared. Like, honestly, never mentioned again. I don't see anyone ever talk about this. Even more so, I don't see anyone even really say that it was, like, they finished it. I don't know why, but did people drop it maybe? Or maybe people just didn't fall for it that much? Or maybe people didn't like it, I guess. But honestly, I think it was a great mecha show. I mean, this had everything I wanted in it. It had a good, interesting mecha plot. It had very cool-looking robots. It had just a cool set of animations. It had a great opening and closing. This was one of the shows that I think fits the bill of just a breath of fresh air. I said that a lot, but this is how this list is in many ways, of just how mechas should be. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. But as a mecha genre and mecha show in general, I'm very critical of those things because the thing is that a lot of mech shows rely on the Gundam concept where they're very similar to Gundam, and that's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Gundam's a great series, but it's not every series has to be Gundam. Like there could be other types of robots being done and kind of interesting of how characters can be cast, and it doesn't always have to fit the bill of your typical teenage pilot going in and just piloting a robot, being a little perfect, and and do all this cool stuff with it. In Valve they do something where they take that concept, yeah, so they have a teenager piloting a giant mech, I get that, but they have some very big risks that he has to fill. Not like Evangelion, mind you, but risks in the sense that there's a lot to be sacrificed by piloting one of these Valve. In many senses, it's almost like you become a vampire because you're able to then become this extraordinary human being, but there is consequences to even having that power in the first place. And as the course of the series progresses, you start learning the consequences of what they really in detail for our main characters here. But I love how it deals with the kind of space stuff. It deals with the whole robot elements. I think it was one of those shows that it needs to be loved more. So definitely, if you haven't checked it out, go check out Valve. You can't do wrong with that. Anyways, guys and girls, I'm gonna end it here because honestly, this is a really long list. But hopefully, you guys like this. So it comes out on Tuesday, like always. I'm gonna be honest with you. This might be the last top 10 I do for a little while. I know I wanted to do them every Tuesday and stuff like that. I want top 10 Tuesdays. They might not be on Tuesdays anymore. They might be like sporadically placed on every other Tuesday or maybe every once a month Tuesday or something like that. Only because college starting back up and stuff like that. It's gonna be hard for me to do them on Tuesdays. That's when I go to class on Tuesday. That's when I'm busy the whole day for the most part. So honestly, it's not the greatest day for me. I mean, I didn't realize when I said originally that I was gonna do my top tens on Tuesdays. I didn't know that I have class on Tuesday, so that was my mistake. But the thing is that now that I realize that I have class on Tuesday, it's a little harder to get these out on on time and stuff like that, and they're harder to do because I have to do them the day before, and if I have homework or paperwork or whatever, it's just a pain in the ass. So don't expect them every single Tuesday. I mean, I'm not gonna say that when they're gonna come out, but they will be on Tuesdays all the time when I can get them on Tuesdays. That's the better way of putting it. But anyways, guys and girls, I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. You know the whole nine. I will talk to you all later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.